Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. The weather outside is gloomy, but it was a brilliant day yesterday. Apart from a few nails bitten off, it was a Liverpool victory, which puts them 8 points clear at the top of the table. We were pardoned by the King, and then the King issued a royal decree, which pretty much, David Lynch, threw our agenda completely out the window, didn't it? I'm guessing you've had about 8,000 messages so far today around this.
I mean, if there's any upside to this, it's that it allowed you to crowbar that tortured metaphor in right at the top. So really, you must be pretty pleased with that one, to be honest. But but it's, I don't know if it's one of those that kind of, takes the shine off the win a little bit, or it not necessarily takes the shine off the win, but it's definitely a big distraction from what happened yesterday. And obviously the biggest news, as you say, just one of those kind of bombshells. I wasn't aware that the lads who'd gone down to Southampton had got those quotes, so came as a surprise to me. And yeah, pretty interesting stuff in there, and a lot for us to dissect, I guess.
Yeah, quite a lot to dissect, and maybe, just maybe, we might even touch a little upon the Southampton game itself. But there is only one place to start. The Egyptian King did speak directly after this game, exactly as David said. Paul Gorst, Lewis Steele, a few others were there when he gave some comments which have sort of drawn a lot of attention. So just in case you've not seen them or not heard, let's have a look at what Mo Salah said yesterday.
There's a lot of talk about your future. What's the latest you can tell us on that?
Well, we're almost in December. I haven't received any offer to stay yet in the club, so probably I'm more out than in. So,
would you like to stay there?
Well, I've been in the club for many years. No club like this, but in the end, it's not in my hands. So, as I said before, it's December, so I haven't received anything yet about my future. So.
It feels like the fans would love you to stay, though, given the reaction today.
I love the fans. The fans love me, but in the end, it's not in my hand; it's the fans' hands. So, yeah, let's wait and see.
How do you feel about the fact there hasn't been an offer? Then does that disappoint you?
Of course, yeah.
And so what? Have you spoken to the club about why there hasn't been an offer?
Well, I'm not gonna go and say I'm not gonna retire soon. So I'm just playing I'm focused in the season, and I'm trying to win the Premier League or hopefully the Champions League as well. But yeah, it's a disappointment, but we'll see.
I mean, David, there's quite a few things there to unpack realistically. What was your sort of first reaction when you saw or heard those comments?
Yeah, kind of surprised. I mean, I think it's been written in a few pieces, but it's certainly my experience as well, is that I think this is maybe the third or fourth time that Mo has ever stopped in the mix zone. Obviously, I think this is the first time I've not actually been there when he has, and it's happened. Champions League final in Madrid. I think it maybe in his debut season once as well. And then otherwise, we haven't seen an awful lot of him or heard much from him. So surprised really that he did it. And but I guess also kind of not surprised in the sense that, he is someone who very much knows the value of his words. And if it's getting to the point in the contract situation that he feels he has to force it and put something out there, then he's going to do it. And obviously he decided that was a good moment to do it. He scored 2 goals that win the game for Liverpool, and he's elected that this is the time I need to put it out there. I need to clearly put some pressure on, which I think is the number one aim from what he was doing, by the way. He's looking to put the pressure back on Liverpool's sporting hierarchy. And I'd say, judging from the reaction on social media, he's absolutely managed to do that. But a little bit of surprise that that's the moment, particularly because we're going into this big week now. Is it a little bit of a distraction from that? I don't know. That's for the players and the managers to decide. But was a little bit surprised that he stopped, because that has not happened very often, and that just shows you he really wanted to get something off his chest.
Yeah, indeed. And you've mentioned it there. We might as well actually talk about this game yesterday, because for a neutral, it had quite a few thrilling elements, this, didn't it? A 2-3, 3-2 victory, as we'd say, for us. Mo Salah nets a double, exactly as you said. And I suppose with this one, is it right to say the ultimate thing with this is forget the performance? It was just about winning yesterday and no injuries, and that should be the ultimate thing we take from it.
Yeah, I just think with the performance, the kind of it's sometimes you're going to have days like that. I mean, post-international break is always tricky, and I think Liverpool, that's 3 times on the bounce now. They haven't kind of quite looked themselves, to after those international breaks. It's clearly taken a bit out of them, and also you can see from the team selection it affects them as well. So that kind of hurts them a little bit. And then obviously you throw in the other factors. Southampton come up with a good plan that is different, that kind of catches Liverpool out in that first half and going for 3 at the back. And, from the lineup, it wasn't entirely clear that was what they were going to do. So it really was a surprise for Liverpool as soon as it kicked off. The conditions, which I think are a factor, Canate had kind of, for me, one of his worst games in a while, but you could see the ball swirling when it goes up in the air. Southampton can see the goal through the exact same problem. So the conditions are wet and windy, and that makes it difficult. And obviously the crowd were up and behind Southampton as well, and they gave them enough reason for encouragement. So a few kind of mitigating factors there for Liverpool. And as you say, I mean, I saw so many tweets kind of on, prior to the game after the City result saying Liverpool just have to win, just have to get it done. And at the end of the day, they did that. And yes, it wasn't massively convincing, probably poor for an hour and very good for half an hour. And that was enough to win it. But it was just about getting the points on the board. How many times are you going to get an opportunity to go 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League and make the most of City dropping points again? You just have to get over the line, even if you're not playing well. And they absolutely did that. So I think you've just got to take the points, get out of there, and don't repeat that performance. But I don't expect to repeat that performance because they haven't put many of those in this season. So, when they pop up those rare days, it's not happening for you. Just get out of there with the win, and they absolutely did that.
Yeah, but it's funny how people have sort of, I would say, had a go, but been quite critical of that performance. Whereas, isn't the sign of champions you win and don't play well at the same time? So it's just about winning sometimes when it's not going your way. And interesting comments coming in. Anfield Road TV put there, disappointing the club haven't started negotiations with Mo. He's irreplaceable. He can go on for many years to come. Hope it's sorted sharpish. I don't want it to derail our trophy challenge this year, which is an interesting one. And I suppose there's only one place to start.
Just to come in from that, actually, just to come in on that, it's a good point. But I would kind of push back on that in terms of, and I think this is Mo Salah being very clever here, I think, to be honest. And someone always said to me, and this was years ago, about Mo, is he's someone who very much knows his value and the value of his words and everything. And he's a clever guy as well as being an absolutely unbelievable footballer. And his suggestion saying that he hadn't been offered a deal, obviously that's been read as, Liverpool aren't even at the table. They're not talking to him. Nothing's going on there. They're just ignoring him. They're letting him run his deal down. I can just completely rule that out now. There are talks ongoing. The fact he's not being given an offer is just a case of semantics. And as I say, Mo being very clever there because he knew what the reaction would be. But you would not make an offer until, those negotiations and those talks have reached a point where that would make sense to do so. So the fact there's not been an offer to me is not surprising. We know the same thing that we knew a week ago, which is that talks are ongoing between Liverpool and Mo. And that's, there you go. That comment sort of nails it there. But those negotiations are ongoing. So, like I say, I think a lot of that was kind of directed at, putting the pressure on. And I don't think it was a kind of an honest appraisal of where contract negotiations are up to. And one of the things we've got to factor into this as well is that, as much as it gets everybody on Mo Salah's side, and absolutely, and I think Liverpool would be stupid to let him go, by the way, because how the hell are they going to replace him next season? Never mind what happens in the next couple of seasons. They've nowhere near got a chance of finding anyone as good as him for next season. And he's obviously a Liverpool legend as well. So would love to see him stay. But I think, this is a contract negotiation. There's got to be compromise on both sides. And look, if Mo Salah is quietly asking for, and I don't think this is the case, by the way, but just to use a kind of, extrapolate this example and use the kind of outlandish example, if Mo Salah was asking for 5 years at 500 grand a week, I think everybody would say, hang on, Liverpool can't give him that. So he's probably not asking for that, but he's probably asking for something that is a little more or not right with what Liverpool can do. He's already on 350 grand a week. So if he wants a pay rise on that, I think that would be tough. If he wants 3 or 4 years, I still think that would be tough. And I think Liverpool will be justified in wanting him to compromise as well. But obviously, what everyone sees is this take on things now is Mo Salah's interview, and everyone will go, we've got to give him whatever he wants. But I don't think Liverpool can do that. And I don't think Liverpool fans really want Liverpool to just completely collapse on his demands either. We've got to be realistic about this, but we're only hearing one side of the story, which is Salah's side. And within that side, he's not telling us what he's asking for. He's not telling us whether his demands are outrageous. That kind of part is being hidden from us. And we're not hearing anything from Liverpool's side apart from the fact that negotiations are ongoing and that's it. So, I just think we've got to be kind of careful of jumping in and assuming that we're getting 100% of the truth there or maybe an accurate sort of depiction of what's going on. There are two sides to this. And as much as, we all want the agreement to be made and for Mo Salah to stay, there has probably got to be compromise on both sides, and that's Liverpool and Mo Salah, and they've got to find that agreement. So, I don't think this interview rules out that they can get there either. But it's just, I do think it's just important to consider that there are those two aspects there, and we're only getting one very small, partial side of the story.
Yeah, hopefully something will come out soon, and we all know what we want it to be at the same time. And I suppose if we actually a little bit go back to the original agenda and what we wanted to talk about, the game yesterday, but Mo Salah in the game, because he goes to 12 goals, 10 assists, 22 goal contributions in 17 games. He kind of gets us out of jail. I mean, he was unbelievable that second half yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, his first half was kind of quiet, but not really through any faults of his own. I thought Liverpool couldn't really get him in good positions, couldn't get the ball to him enough. And then second half, when they did start to do that and showed a little bit more aggression to keep the ball and keep Southampton penned in, then he just shows what he's all about. And as I say, this is the big reason there's pressure on Liverpool and a need for, in my opinion, for them to compromise on their demands as well, is because they've got a player here who is, quite clearly, playing at a level of one of the sort of top 10, top 5 players in the world, a Ballon d'Or contender if he continues at this rate, just quite clearly the best player in the Premier League as things stand. And again, the test is to maintain that over 38 games, but I mean, he generally does, doesn't he? And like I say, he just showed that in that second half. And this is something Liverpool can't replace going into next season, because I imagine at the very least he'll be at this level next season. He was just all over Southampton, wasn't he? And so, just so many different ways of hurting you. His passing's brilliant, his crossing. He can, when you give him a yard, he gets the shot off himself and he's deadly. He scores 2 and hits the post and finishes one that he'll probably, puts one over that he'll probably be disappointed with. So, as I say, just absolute second half was a summary of the fact that he's one of the best players in the world at the moment. And that is why Liverpool really do need to do something to try and make sure they get through this contract impasse and that they can keep him.
Yeah, just unbelievable. And I mean, he broke more records yesterday. It was 100th away goal. There was loads of things tumbling down. He is not far off Thierry Henry now in terms of all-time Premier League goal contributions. Like you say, he's a legend in a legendary list if you look at who's in there as well at the same time. A bit of a different question I wanted to ask you. What would you set Mo Salah as a target goals or goal contribution-wise this season? Bearing in mind he's on 12 goals, 10 assists, 22 goal contributions in all. Based on the fact, obviously, we're in every competition, there's a lot to go. I mean, we're not even at Christmas yet. What would you set him, or what do you think is realistic for him to achieve?
Well, I think his aim is always, 20 league goals, and the other side of that always, I think he tries to target that. It's helpful that he gets penalties as well, so that gives him a little boost in that regard. So I think he should always be looking for that. And just, I guess it's just the challenge is to just keep scoring and assisting at this rate, that he is at the moment. I think we have seen maybe, certainly last season, we saw that injury in the AFCON hurt him, didn't it, a little bit? And we did see a slight kind of drop off in his numbers and contributions in the second half of the season. And I think we've seen that in other seasons for him at Liverpool as well, that he starts really hot and he's still scoring in the latter half of seasons, but not quite at that rate. Yeah. So I guess that's the kind of big challenge because, different type of football now, new regime, new setup in terms of fitness and preparation, no AFCON this year. So, let's see if we can just sustain that form over the entire season. And I mean, like I say, I see no reason why he can't. I mean, he's probably having to do a lot less kind of high intensity sprints than he did under Jurgen Klopp. This system seems to be just putting him in the right positions constantly to get goals and assists. So I just don't see why he can't. So I guess that for me is the challenge. I guess that 20 league goals, he'll definitely get there. I've no doubts about that. But that is generally a sort of baseline aim. But I think he can do more than that. I think he can keep getting goal contributions at this rate. And if he does, that is one way to keep yourself in the contention for major trophies, if you've got a player doing that. And for him, as I say, genuinely puts him in with the shout at the Ballon d'Or for me.
Yeah, it is just a difference maker for us at the moment. There's no two ways about it. And this player as well, Dominic Szoboszlai, because I know you wrote a piece this morning on him specifically, and it felt quite big for him yesterday that he does so much work and no one doubts his importance to the system and he's off the ball. It's maybe just on the ball, it's not quite happened this season. Do you think, and I should say that at times, it's not been all the time, it's important to say that. Do you think the goal yesterday will be a bit of a boost that might be needed for him a little bit at the moment?
Yeah, because I think that's been the only criticism of them this season, isn't it? Is not having that end product. And I think he's been kind of unlucky in certain situations with that as well. And it is something that Arne Slot wants to work on with him. And something he's keen to add, because you do look, he does score and assist more for Hungary. His rate there is much higher than it is for Liverpool. So he's capable of doing it. And also Liverpool are basically playing him kind of a lot of the time up front in a 4-4-2 in the attacking phase. So he's in the positions to get the goals and the assists as well. So, but maybe sometimes, can just be a little bit of confidence and getting that goal will help him. And it's, that shows the quality he's got, by the way, because I know Southampton give that away, but the touch and then get it out his feet and then left-footed finish in off the post, perfectly curled in. Yeah. That shows the quality he's got. So, I hope that can be a little bit of a boost to him. But I would say as well, even if he is going to be a bit streaky in terms of goals and assists, and we do want to see more from him in that front, and the manager does, I still think what he provides everywhere else over the pitch in terms of covering gaps and his work rate and defensive contributions, he was absolutely sensational both sides yesterday. And we haven't seen him match that particularly frequently, doing both elements really well. So hopefully he can do that a bit more frequently. But he really, really was. It was a genuinely great all-round performance yesterday from him.
Yeah, so the finish was absolutely brilliant off the inside of the post with his weaker foot at the same time. Brilliant. And I suppose, because I was going to ask the same question about Salah in terms of goal contribution, what you expect from Szoboszlai. Do you think, because he's talked about it before, Slot's talked about it as well, do you think we should look at him in that sense, or should we be moving away from sort of a number on Szoboszlai and just thinking about, as long as he keeps contributing as he is, that's what we're looking for?
I think his aim has got to be the next top scorer behind the forwards, basically. I mean, the likelihood is that Gakpo, Diaz, Jota, Nunez and Salah are all going to outscore him this season. But can he be the one behind them? Because he's the one who's closest to them in terms of position. As I say, he's always in that sort of advanced role where he's almost in a 4-4-2 up front. So, I think he's got to aim to be in and around that, because I always remember under Jurgen that you would have, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain would always be the next one off the rank after Mane, Salah, Firmino, maybe Shaqiri. He would always be the next closest in terms of as a midfielder. So I think that for him is where he should be looking to be, really, because he's not going to boost his numbers with penalties or anything like that, but he should get enough in open play. And I think he showed again yesterday that he's capable of that. And yeah, we do just want to see a touch more of that, even if he's not always going to be prolific, but he can just get those numbers close enough to those forwards that you would be happy with it.
Yeah, and yesterday, a brilliant performance. So let's hope he gets on a bit of a roll and keeps that going from an attacking sense. And on the other side of the ball, I did want to ask you about this player, because I've seen really mixed reactions on this. Some people have been a case of, we were so open yesterday, Southampton played through the middle quite often and got the ball through too easily. And yet, understandably for me, people have been on the sense of, now Ryan Gravenberch had a really good game, again, making important blocks and tackles and also driving us forward at times as well. Where do you stand on Gravenberch yesterday?
I think sometimes you've got to separate systemic issues from individuals. So it's easy to say yesterday that when Southampton were playing through Liverpool, oh well, Gravenberch should be in 5 places at once covering the gaps. But I think what was consistently happening, I need to kind of watch the game back really to really drill down into this, but it felt like they were bringing someone out of the back 3 to kind of create a numerical superiority in midfield. Maybe that was Flynn Downs kind of walking out, and then they were finding ways through Liverpool's press. And Liverpool, when they are in that kind of 4-4-2 shape when they're defending, will sometimes find themselves in situations where it's just them 2 in the middle being outnumbered in some way, and that's very easy to kind of play around. I think, I still think you look at Gravenberch's performance and his numbers, and I still think he was good in there despite that. He wins the majority of his duels. He's getting around. So anytime he was near the ball, he pretty much won it. And was very, very useful in possession as well. So I think he did quite well, but I think it was a kind of setup and a tactical issue that Liverpool were dealing with for a lot of that game, really, until they kind of upped it late in the second half. So, I don't put really any blame on him or any other midfielder for the issues that Liverpool had actually in that phase of the game. And I thought Gravenberch had generally a very good performance, and obviously a key goal contribution with the assist for Mo Salah as well.
Yeah, and there's a couple of times he's just got that weaving ability to dribble. It just really helps us get up the pitch or make things happen. So a lot to like. And it's weird almost to praise a goalkeeper when 2 go in your net against the side that's bottom. But if you take away sort of the goals, Kelleher made some good saves, and we was unlucky with that penalty as well yesterday as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, again, just keeps proving, doesn't he, that got such a good backup to Alisson there, and you weren't worried that he was going to be the one in net again because Alisson's still out, and he was very good, as you say. Not a lot he could do about the 2 goals. I mean, he has a great save from the pen, and as you say, the follow up's just an easy one, and then the second goal again. There's not a lot in that position when it's fired through from there that he can do, and he's basically the fella's got so much goal to aim at in the centre of the box. So. But yeah, a couple of really, really good saves. The one kind of low that he tipped around the post, I think it's a really, really good save. And he is so unlucky with the penalty. And again, calm on the ball in build-up as well. So yeah, just lots to like about him. And it'd be interesting. I think, Alisson, by the sounds of things, is quite close. Maybe not going to make it for Real Madrid, but possibly be back in there for Man City. So we may be seeing Kelleher's last game against Real Madrid. But I hope it's another good one, and maybe he can get a clean sheet and sign off in style, because he's been phenomenal in this period in the team. And if Liverpool do go on to win the league, they'll look back on this run in a similar way that they did, by the way, with Adrian when he came in 1920 in the early stages, which often gets forgotten about. He was good in that period and made some very important saves. Now, I think Kelleher is a step up from him in terms of quality, but, he will be as important. So, he's been great since he's come in.
Yeah, and it's an interesting comment there. Wonder if we're doing the right thing in letting him go. Someone's going to pick up a brilliant keeper at some point. There's no 2 ways about it. And yesterday, let's be honest, Virgil van Dijk and Ibu Konate have been the best centre-halves in the league all season. They've been absolutely sensational. It just so happens they probably picked this game to have their worst performances of the season, didn't they, in all honesty?
Yeah, I do think the conditions were massive in this. It was so many of the balls, kind of crossfield balls or long balls in behind, they didn't look kind of like they could judge where they were going to land. And as I say, Alex McCarthy misjudging that Gravenberch one just shows you how difficult those conditions were. So I think it's one of those where you almost have to just kind of write it off from both of them, that they were all over the place a little bit and couldn't get going because the conditions seemingly played such a big role. And look, we know how good both of them are. There's no question over that. So, it almost had to be an external factor that was creating this uncertainty between them. And I'm pretty sure they'll kind of stamp that out quickly and refocus. And I think, if there was an element of complacency to Van Dijk being dispossessed in the build up to around that Southampton goal, then I'm pretty sure he'll stamp that out and be ready for Real Madrid and City and refocus on that, because you don't have doubts over their quality or their mentality either. So just one of those, I think.
Yeah, and if there's any 2 players that have earned pass marks or a free pass for any game, it's those 2 this season. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, they'll move on quickly from that, no doubt. And It comes to that part of the show. We've got to talk about it, David. That in a 3-2, there's quite a few calls actually to walk through here, I think it's fair to say. So we'll kind of go through them one by one. I didn't think it looked too bad when I saw the Lallana challenge on Gravenberch. I thought it was late, but not. And then I saw the replay and I thought, hold on. And I know Adam Lallana is an ex-red, but should it have been a red card?
Yeah, I think he probably should have. And I think Liverpool probably help him out by not making much of a fuss of it because it's the mate who's gone in with the challenge. But you watch it back and you think, it's not so much the leg that kind of, I think the leg that kind of makes the foul, or the ref thinks makes the foul, is the other one. But it is that kind of trailing leg that catches him on the shin with the studs. It looked really, really bad. And you can imagine in many games you've seen this season that would have resulted in a red card. So I was kind of surprised that they didn't, look a little bit more closely at that. And I think, Adam Lallana could have had absolutely no complaints if he'd been sent off for that one. It was reckless and kind of endangered Gravenberch, and unfortunately comes away okay from that one. But yeah, I agree that could easily have been a red.
Yeah, genuinely upon replay, I was astonished that it wasn't. But yeah, it doesn't make too much difference in the context of things. And this one was the hotly debated one. I know you'll have seen it. You probably commented on it as well. The Andy Robbo challenge, Tyler Dibbling, the penalty. And who would have thought we'd be talking about lines with VAR on something not related to offside? But I mean, this has been feverishly debated. What is your take on this decision, in the area, out the area? How do you see it?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is I don't know how or why Liverpool supporters who are seen on social media are talking about this with such certainty. I don't know how anyone could know. And that for me is the key thing. I kept watching it over and over back on the screen when it was coming up and thinking, I can't tell. I can't tell. That is too... I would not be able to make a judgment either way on whether that was in or out. And I know I keep seeing people posting pictures saying, look, it's out. And it's like, how can you see from that? You can't. The quality of the picture isn't good enough. And the fact is, I think the contact is supposed to be calf against shin, isn't it, basically, which is what they believe is what initiates the penalty challenge. And so I just think you can't tell. I don't care what anyone says, you can't tell. And I think if it's been given on the field, which it was, that's a big call from the ref, but, sometimes they're going to happen. They've almost got to go, it's like umpires calling cricket. We can't conclusively disallow that pen or say it was outside the box. Therefore, you've got to stick with the on-field decision. And that for me is absolutely fine, by the way. Sometimes they're going to go for you. Sometimes they're not. But I don't see how you could categorically say it wasn't a pen from the evidence we were given. I just don't think you could. And so I totally sympathise with the VAR for having a look and saying, can't quite tell, might as well stick with the on-field decision. And as I say, sometimes you've got to accept that they are going to be, even with VAR involved, you're going to have those coin flip decisions. You're going to have penalties that are kind of subjective, where if the ref hadn't given it on the field, they wouldn't have overturned to make it a penalty, or vice versa. Those scenarios are still going to exist. And I just wish people are a little bit more mature about accepting those. For me, that was just one of those. And it was a rash foul and silly for Andy Robertson to give him the decision to make, by the way. So, Liverpool could have got lucky in that situation. They didn't get lucky, but they probably didn't deserve much luck anyway. And I get why the ref called it. I get why the VAR did. It's one of those for me.
Yeah, I don't think you'll find many agreeing, but I get it. Yeah, I thought it was just outside, but if someone's going to ask me to bet or solid money on it, I won't put money on it in without being right there and having a protractor and a meter rule or anything like that. So yeah, a tough one. The one that I did want to ask you about as well, the penalty. A lot of people, and I don't see it this way, but a lot of people have made out that Armstrong one, where he almost collides with Kelleher and nothing's given. Russell Martin talked about this afterwards. Your take on that one?
Well, I haven't seen many Liverpool fans talking about that one, by the way, which I think is interesting. Because for me, again, I watched the replay back and I kind of thought, again, if he gives that on the field, is that getting overturned? I don't think so, because I think the ball goes past Kelleher. And I think there's no, he doesn't seem to get contact on it like maybe Sanchez against Chelsea, which resulted in the overturn. Doesn't seem like there's Kelleher contact on the ball, and he seems to hit the man. So again, one of those where I think if it gets given on the field, there's no chance of an overturn there. So maybe, possibly could have been a penalty. And I think, again, like I always say, sometimes you're going to get those ones where you get a bit lucky, and sometimes you're going to get ones where you don't get so lucky. And I think Liverpool may be a little bit fortunate around that one, to be honest. But, again, that's absolutely fine. That can happen. I'm accepting of that either way in games. It can happen. But yeah, just one of those that I think could easily have been a penalty, but I would never say definitively was. It could have been.
Yeah, it's a tough one, that. And the one I think that was quite easy, I mean, the penalty for us, Mo Salah's second goal, Liverpool's third, that is a pen all day long. I mean, all that's missing is someone to spike the ball over the net, really, the way he hits it, isn't it, in all honesty?
Yeah, I can't believe he even tried to sort of half-heartedly complain about the award. It was about as nailed on as it gets. One of those that you see in real time and immediately is a pen because of the way the ball moves. And yeah, thankfully ref gives it, VAR checks out, and yeah, they had no choice in that one, did they? That was about as nailed on as you can see.
Yeah, no doubts about it at all. And this topic as well, I mean, we are now 8 points clear. The table looks brilliant. It's a thing of beauty when you look at it now. We've had some tough games, etc., despite what people are saying. Are we now, because aside from Opta supercomputers giving us odds and statistics, in your eyes, are we real favourites for the title now?
Yeah, absolutely have to be. I just don't think there's any way of Liverpool underdogging this one and trying to pretend that they're not. They're massive favourites because, when do you ever get an 8-point lead over your biggest rivals for the title, or 9-point if you consider it Arsenal? That doesn't happen very often. And the fact is that both those teams have been dropping points regularly and Liverpool just have not. So, I'm sure there are plenty kind of wobbles to come for Liverpool and difficult moments, and there will be defeats. I don't think they'll go the rest of the season, unbeaten. But, if you put yourself in a position like this, you can absorb some of those tough moments. And, whilst absorbing those tough moments, you are asking your rivals then to be absolutely flawless. I mean, Arsenal and Manchester City now, if Liverpool can get to 90 points, which I think they can drop down to around 2.3 points per game from this point on, which is usually about 86-point pace over a whole season. Arsenal and City have basically got to go for a 100-point pace from here. That is insane. City have actually done that obviously once when they were in the pomp, but they don't look like a team that can do it now. And Arsenal have never broken 90 points, or at least not in this era with this team. So they've now got to go at a 100-point pace from here. So, if they can do that, fair play to them. I think you would get long odds on that, which is, well, you will get long odds on that as a fact, because Liverpool are odds on for the title and they absolutely deserve to. And like I say, some big tests coming up. I'm eyeing those away games that are coming up as a big moment for Liverpool as well. Newcastle and Everton, they're big tests. But, you can't get away from the fact that where they are, the position they're in now, they're massive favourites to go and win it. And, I hope they embrace that, because it has been kind of the underdog approach under Jurgen Klopp. But I think Slot seems to kind of take a different, view on it. And so, I think he'll be enjoying the fact that his team is dominant and kind of at the moment is running away with it. So, yeah, hopefully he can keep it up.
Yeah, and we're all enjoying this 8-point gap at the moment. There's no two ways about it. And this I wanted to ask you about. I mean, Sky, Jamie Redknapp and Roy Keane were talking about this to death yesterday. And you've probably seen the snippet where Jamie Redknapp says, yeah, it's been the perfect start for Liverpool because Arsenal have had injuries, City could have injuries, Liverpool might get injuries and they may have to deal with that. Am I just imagining the part where we've had first team players injured for big parts of the season, and even Trent out yesterday, and Tsimikas Knox, Alisson, Elliott, Jota, Chiesa? Is everyone just deliberately determined to ignore the injuries we've had so far, it seems?
Yeah, the thing is that the reason Liverpool's injuries are getting ignored is because they're coping with them far better. And this has always been the question mark around this Arsenal squad, hasn't it? Is how they can cope with those issues, having not had any basically for 2 seasons. And Liverpool went through absolute hell last season with injuries. So they've repeatedly shown that they're able to cope with it. And thankfully, it's not quite as bad as last season yet. But Liverpool have had a few themselves and dealt with it really, really well. And that's the big difference between the sides. City, they're not coping with their injuries, not just Rodri, but other injury issues that they've had. This is one of Liverpool's key selling points. And for me, I would say they've got the best squad out of the three sides. I would absolutely repeat that. I think Liverpool have, they do. The second choices in every position are good enough to keep a side going at 90-point plus pace. So, that for me is the strongest squad, and they keep proving it so far. So, yeah, I don't put too much stall in what kind of pundits say from time to time, and they are a lot of the time they're speaking off the top of their heads as well. So they will make errors, and I don't think it was a sly dig at Liverpool or anything like that. But I do think the takeaway, and I think Liverpool fans are right to point it out, is that Liverpool have had injuries. They're just coping with them an awful lot better.
Yeah, and getting the results at the same time, which is how people usually define a crisis. It depends or not, doesn't it? So there is that. And I suppose I'll package this a little bit for the injury question, because we got told Alisson and Jota will not be available for Real Madrid. So we know that. We've got our fingers crossed. Maybe Alisson's back for City at the weekend. I suppose the two that we're a little bit unsure about is Trent. And then Tsimikas wasn't in the squad, and there were suggestions of a knock. Is there any hope, do we know, of Trent and Tsimikas for Real Madrid on Wednesday?
Yeah, so Trent, as of kind of last week, at the back end of last week, yes, there was hope. Again, it's just about how that's developed now. We will find out from Arne Slot tomorrow where he's up to with that, but it's kind of day by day. So, hopefully some good news on that. But he did, those two were ruled out for a reason, and Trent wasn't. There is every chance that he's back for this one. So, really, really hope he can be, because that'd be a big boost. He's hugely influential. And on Tsimikas, nothing kind of concrete on that, but I did speak to someone kind of close to him yesterday, and I asked kind of what's the extent of this, and the reply was kind of, we don't know yet, which to me doesn't sound great in terms of it being a knock and then he's back for the next game. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but not knowing, I don't know. That suggests he's going to miss Real Madrid at a minimum to me. But we'll see again. That's one that Slot will update on, and hopefully it's nothing more. But I would love to see him back, by the way, because I think Tsimikas in particular, because I think you saw Robertson yesterday. He's played 2 games for Scotland, come into a third game, and he didn't look himself again. Exactly in the same way that you saw him against Aston Villa after he misses 2 games, and he's absolutely brilliant. So I think you need Tsimikas, you need that rotation there to see the best of Robertson. And the ideal situation would have been Tsimikas to come in against Real Madrid, and then Robertson again against City, and hopefully back to his best. So that would have been kind of the dream scenario. So just hopefully it's nothing too bad for Tsimikas, but we'll see.
Yeah, we really don't want to be without him for a period at all. He has, and on form, he probably is the starting left back at the moment, despite what people might think. You've got to judge it with what you see. So, yeah, let's hope that is a very, very short absence period, but we'll have to see. And this is the one. I mean, this is a brilliant time. We're 8 points clear, and Real Madrid and Manchester City are walking into town. And we are rightly, they're not gimmies, but we're confident of the moment. Does this feel as big a week as I'm bigging it up to be here, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think everybody should be massively excited about it. I mean, this is what we're all kind of in it for, not just as supporters, but anyone who covers it or is in and around the whole thing. These are the games you kind of look forward to, and they're the most thrilling. So I think everyone should be buzzing for it, because, I mean, Real Madrid are coming. They've got injury problems. They're not looking themselves this season. Liverpool sick to death of them. Excuse me. Sick to death of them having, suffered so many bad results against them in recent years. It's a real chance to kind of teach them a lesson, but also for Liverpool to stay top of that Champions League group. And, the quicker you get to kind of the points target, the sooner you can start resting players. So to win this, would be good. And that allows some rotation further down the line in the Champions League. And, if you win your first 6, you are definitely going to be through, aren't you? So, that basically you're making the group stage 6 games again, and you don't have to worry about those other 2 the other side of Christmas. You can put whatever team you kind of want out there. So, that is something to chase, I think. And as I say, you've got Real Madrid coming looking a little bit shaky at the moment. So, yeah, it should be relished as a huge opportunity. And then obviously straight off the back of that, then Manchester City, and a chance to go 11 points clear of them in the title race. And Guardiola said today, if we go 11 points behind, that's pretty much it, really. And I agree with him. I don't think he's playing mind games there. I think he's absolutely right. I mean, it would take an unbelievable collapse from Liverpool and City to somehow solve all of their problems, which I don't think they will, for them to get anywhere near. So it is a massive game. So I think Liverpool, if they win these next two, they put themselves in an unreal position, really, in terms of both Champions League and Premier League. So it's, it is massive, and nobody should hide away from that. It's pivotal, and everyone should be kind of enjoying it and embracing the pressure and just loving the fact that Liverpool are involved in these games that matter.
Yeah, this is, for anything that could go wrong, this is where you want to be. It's as simple as that. And everyone would trade for our position right now. Make no mistake about it. And I was going to ask you about maybe a bit of rotation, because Real Madrid have confirmed Vinicius Jr., the non-Ballon d'Or winner, will not travel. So he's not part of their squad. That's not a bad thing. Maybe especially with Trent being out and Conor Bradley likely to be right back, you'd think. With the fact we've done so well at the start of the Champions League, we've got a perfect record, and the fact City are in town, are you expecting any real rotation from Slot in this one at all?
I think there's an opportunity to do a few just because of the options. I mean, Trent could be back. We hope so. So there's an option to change it right back there. Maybe Alisson is, I suppose he's probably very unlikely to be involved, but, perhaps he would be there for a rotational option if he just squeezes in. But kind of other positions as well. I mean, in midfield, McAllister's ready to start, absolutely, after missing Southampton. Should be full of energy for this one. You've got other changes you can make, like bringing Luis Diaz back in as well to start the game. So there are a few kind of possibilities there to mix things up and freshen things up. So I think he can take that without thinking too much about, I've got to rotate, I've got to make changes, I've got to be ready for City. I do believe managers when they say they go game by game, but I think there's a few easy changes you can make here anyway that just make sense without getting into how much you're flipping things and trying to think about City. And so I think he will just take some of those easy options, really, and then just try and kind of get the game won as if he can. And because I think the thing is as well is that if it gets to 60 minutes, this isn't a game that Liverpool absolutely have to win, is it? That this is the beauty of it, is that it'd be lovely to win it, and I'm sure Liverpool want to win it and will name a team to win it. But if he gets to 60 minutes and Gravenberch's looking a bit leggy, you can think about the weekend. You can drag him off. Even if you're not 2-0 up, it's fine. Don't kind of worry about that. So I think that's something for them to think about. So it's just, I think it's all positives. And like I say, I think we'll see some changes anyway, because they're just easy to make those changes. But he's got options there to kind of name as strong a team as he wants to. And then, as I say, make changes late in the game, regardless of what the scoreline is.
Yeah, very true. And Red Armchair supporter there said, so Bosley, he did empty the tank yesterday, so he might be the one that comes out with McAllister coming in. Final question on the Real Madrid game. Considering it destroyed Leverkusen 4-0, Luis Diaz in the false nine. Are you fancying we see that Wednesday night?
I don't know, because I think that was clearly a very specific tactical approach for a very specific opposition, and a very, he mentioned in the Leverkusen's defenders and their wish to kind of get up tight against you and turn it into a physical battle. So that was the reason he did it. I don't know if Real will want to approach it in a different way, and maybe you'll think a similar approach against Rudiger actually will be a good shout. I'm not so sure. It is certainly an option for them there. Gakpo would absolutely be ready to go again on that left-hand side. And Nunez, you don't want to run him into the ground. I mean, he's had to do 90 there, or very close to 90, hasn't he, at Southampton, and after coming from South America. So, it could be a case that the manager's hand is forced a little bit with that one, and he's thinking, I don't want an injury here, particularly as we're waiting on Jota. And so, maybe that's an option for them, really. And I wouldn't be against that, because, as you say, it absolutely worked last time. So, if that's the team sheet he goes with and the approach he thinks will work, 9 times out of 10 things his tactical approach has been working this season. So I'd absolutely back him to get it right again.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that one. Although, if we're all being honest, folks, we want to beat Real Madrid. but we trade a Real Madrid draw for a Manchester City victory. And we always talk about wider football things. I mean, that game on Saturday, to lose 4-0 at home to Spurs, and I'm not saying it in a derogatory way, but Spurs have not been great themselves. Are you looking at Manchester City at the moment, David, and almost being like, remember that year when Fabinho just dropped off a cliff, Hendo's legs went? Does it look a little bit like there's just not that much in their tank at the moment or in their legs?
Yeah, I think this is it. You don't want to get almost blasé about Man City, and you don't want to tempt yourself into putting yourself in a situation where you've written them off and they come roaring back. But I honestly, I cannot see it this season. I think you can't, as Liverpool found out in that season, as you say, you can't mask a lack of legs. There's nothing you can do tactically to sort that out. If the other team can consistently outrun you and outpower you in the central areas, you're done for. And that, and with City, we probably should have seen it coming. I mean, the fact is that Guardiola has continually sort of staved off any kind of issues in terms of that, and been able, his team's been able to go to the well again and again. But so many of them are the wrong side of 30 and have started to pick up injuries and just can't run as far. And when you don't have that prime age Rodri sat in front of you, your back four kind of sweeping up and putting out fires constantly, the best player in the world at doing that, then you're going to have a wide open midfield. And I don't care how good Guardiola is, he's going to have to go pretty far to sort this out without a January transfer. It'd be the biggest, stroke of managerial genius I think we've ever seen if he somehow manages to mask this. I think, City are just going to end up with a lower points tally this season. I mean, they've got so much quality that will comfortably be in the top four, don't get me wrong. But I think they're going to come up short in quite a few games because they can be got at. And this is not just a reaction to this poor run they're on at the moment, by the way. They were losing XG in some of the games they were winning earlier in the season, and that is very, very unusual. And I mean, when City have lost games in the past early in seasons, they've hit the post 6 times. The opposition has caught them on 2 counters and finished them off. This is nothing like that. They're getting torn apart game after game. And as I say, Rodri isn't coming back this season. Kovacic is the wrong side of 30. Same with Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Kyle Walker. And they're all getting injuries as well. So, they've got problems that you can't solve outside of transfer windows. And by January, it's going to be way too late for them in the title race. So I think this City team is probably not going to be in title contention this season, to be fair. And I also think it kind of bodes well for what Liverpool can do to them on Sunday.
Yeah, we are not saying that with 1 inch of sadness, people, at all. And a question just come in there, David, and it's my fault. I didn't mention him from Wild Dead Wolf. Mentioning Chiesa, I didn't sort of raise him at all in the injury question. Any news on him? Is it still that mini pre-season, I think it was described as, for Chiesa, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he's doing bits and pieces of training, so he should be really close right now. I mean, it's just one of those where, if he gets the right couple of days training in and he's looking good, then they'll absolutely, they'll go for it and they'll put him in the squad. But he's just not quite there yet. So hopefully a chance for Real Madrid, and if not that, then City, unless there's kind of a setback there. So fingers crossed there isn't. But he's very, very close now, so we should be seeing him soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that one. And the final question, I know I normally take you to wider football, but we are the topic for everyone in wider football at the moment. And we've already talked a lot about Salah, as people will know. There's been quite a lot of a buzz on social media recently with FSG being in town, the suggestion that there could be good news coming. Is there any latest that you're hearing around Van Dijk, Trent, anything along those lines at all?
I do think it's kind of encouraging that they're around, because they do tend to be around when it's, the transfer windows to kind of, I don't know, they don't need to sign the checks in person, but when big business is happening, they do tend to try and be around. So, it's rare that they would be at a game like that. So, maybe there is good news coming. I can't say I've heard anything personally. I absolutely would have written that. Don't worry about that. But it just feels like a little sign that something's moving there. And, Mo's little outburst at Southampton, maybe that'll get him moving on that front as well. So yeah, fingers crossed, some good news, because everything else is going really well at the moment. I think if you throw the contracts on top of that, maybe even a January signing, then the mood will just go through the roof.
Yeah, it really would. And You said it before, and I'm kind of going to ask you a question that you mentioned already to finish it. For all the things that are going on and all the Salah talk discussed at length, we should ultimately be just buzzing for everything that's going on at the moment. This is a really good period. The feel-good vibe should just be across the board, shouldn't it?
Yeah, this is it. This is why I don't think people should get too kind of emotionally drawn in about the Salah stuff as well, because, he's just kind of trying to get himself in position to get a new contract. He wants to stay. That's a good thing. Liverpool want him to stay, but they both want it on their terms, and they've got to kind of bang heads a little bit to get there. So it's not a disaster like people are making out. These things will happen, and the contract situation getting to this point this late was set into motion a little while ago. It's done now. You can't do much about it, but everybody's working to get it done. So I wouldn't focus too much on that, particularly when, Liverpool are way, way clear in the title race. The top of the Champions League as well. They're looking unbelievable under a new manager, despite all that change behind the scenes. And the rivals have got real big problems as well that they're dealing with, which is a nice little bit of a stroke of fortune for Liverpool. It's not just that they're playing well, it's that the rivals are struggling a bit as well. So it's really, really positive. It's, Liverpool are in an unbelievable place, and we're now bouncing into this week now where it's, not Europa League against Sparta Prague or whatever. Yeah. It's the Champions League against Real Madrid at Anfield, the chance to finally get one over on them. And then Manchester City, again, a chance to finally get one over on them, to go 11 points clear, to effectively, for me, put them out the title race in November, or it'll be December, won't it? The 1st of December. That's pretty miraculous, really, that Liverpool are there. So everyone should, for me, just be embracing that and enjoying it, because, these weeks don't come around very often. So just make the most of it, and don't be spending too much time worrying about the contracts. That will sort itself out, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubts about that at all. And we are all looking forward to being at Anfield twice in a week. Hopefully, it's not as cold as it was at Villa, but I can see it being windy based on the weather as last time. But we'll see. We'll see what range of coats and glove Mr. Lynch brings out for this one. But all it leaves me to say as ever is, David, for the time, the insight and the answers, it is as much appreciated as ever.
Thank you very much for having me.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.